Welcome back to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage on this Monday, October 7th, 2024. Hope everybody's having a great start to their week out there. We are tracking Hurricane Milton in today's forecast. That's the main highlight. And this hurricane is absolutely going nuts this morning here in the Gulf of Mexico. And it will be making landfall in Florida on Wednesday or Thursday. We're going to be going over the latest information that you need to know in the forecast. So if you are new here, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We'll keep you covered with Hurricane Milton and many more weather impacts as well. Make sure to press the like button, the thumbs up button to get this information out to more and more people. And of course, leave any comments, questions, and concerns below. We'll get to those after the video. Here is the GOES satellite imagery. Very quiet across portions of North America, very quiet across the US in particular. Sunsplash skies continue, but underneath we have a very big situation developing here this morning. We have a major Category 4 hurricane, and that is Milton, just to the north of the Yucatan Peninsula. And synoptically, this is a perfect pattern in which you would look for a major hurricane. You have a high pressure ridge over the top across the western and the central U.S., lower of the pressure down underneath of that into the Gulf of Mexico, and that is a classic earmark in which we look at for major hurricanes in the Gulf. So let's look at this as well. Historically speaking, we actually did have 3 hurricanes in the Atlantic Basin for the first time ever in the month of October or later. Hurricane Kirk earlier on did actually weaken to a post-tropical cyclone, but yesterday it was a hurricane. So that was history being made, as Kirk, Milton, and Leslie were all hurricanes for the first time in the Atlantic Basin in the month of October or later. So historically, that is very impressive. So let's look here at major Hurricane Milton in the Gulf of Mexico. Look at the eye wall really starting to develop there. Very powerful hurricane getting very close to the Yucatan here peninsula, and this is actually producing winds, maximum sustained winds of 155 miles per hour. The movement is east-southeast at 9 miles per hour, so still crawling here closer to the Yucatan. There are hurricane warnings that are up for the Yucatan now, as the system looks to be a little bit closer today to the Yucatan than it was yesterday. So major impacts are expected there. Hurricane watches have been posted for the west coast of Florida inland toward Orlando and over here into portions of central Florida. We have tropical storm watches also for the Keys and northwest Florida, as well as a major hurricane landfall. A CAT-5 or greater is still a likelihood as we go into that Wednesday evening time frame or even on Thursday morning. Let's give you the latest data here on the track guidance. The spaghetti models are starting to narrow, and it looks like the Tampa Bay region here on average is still the area to watch for the eye wall and the actual landfall of this hurricane. And looking at the sea surface temperatures, I mean, folks, this is off the charts here. You know, when Hurricane Helene moved through, we did see some upwelling of those cooler waters moving up to the surface, but we are still seeing some very warm water here into the Gulf of Mexico, and this is helping to fuel this system to become what is honestly probably going to be a Category 5 before the end of today. Here is the air recon mission here that the National Hurricane Center and the Air Force have been doing. This is a low-level recon mission, and they have found pressures down into the 940s range in the center of this storm this morning, and that is impressive because a lot of the models now are showing that getting up to Category 5 strength, and that is very impressive because just 24 hours ago it didn't look like we're going to get a Category 5, and now we are likely, if not expected, to see a Category 5 really within the next few hours. So that is very impressive. Now take this with a grain of salt. This model in particular is the best model that we do have. Obviously, model guidance isn't always perfect. It's just guidance, right? It gives you a good idea of what could happen. It's not exactly what will happen. So notice the pressure. It's down to 953. We already know that with the low-level recon mission that the Air Force and also the National Hurricane Center hurricane hunters were doing into the storm, it's a lot lower than that, to the 930, 940 range. So take that with a grain of salt, but you can see the idea of the storm is going to be a small scale storm, very compact this afternoon and getting very close to the Yucatan. As we go into tonight, those pressures will likely bomb out around 915, 920 millibars, and we're likely looking at a powerful Category 5 as we go into tonight just to the north of the Yucatan. As we go into Tuesday, this could be the peak intensity. Category 5 likely continuing into the day on Tuesday. Again, just to the north of the Yucatan here. Very strong storm surge here across portions of the northern part of the Yucatan, potentially seeing some flooding as well. And then going into Wednesday here, storm surge is really going to start to increase for the peninsula of Florida, especially the west coast of Florida, as those banding features start to move in. Likely still seeing Category 4 strength here across portions of the eastern Gulf on Wednesday, making landfall either Wednesday night or early Thursday morning as a Category 3 hurricane, and this could still pack a punch for the Tampa Bay region and even parts of Fort Myers, Naples. Very strong storm surge, a lot of wind, a lot of rain with this system. As we go into Thursday, the system moves off to the east here of Florida into the western Atlantic. This could still be causing some storm surge for the east coast of Florida, for Jacksonville, all the way down here towards portions of the Melbourne area, for example. And this will be a Category 1 hurricane. And then on Friday, finally a tropical system, or at least a post-tropical system, as we get to the end of the week. Let's look at the peak storm surge forecast from the National Hurricane Center in Miami, Florida. Up to 12-foot storm surge is expected into the Tampa Bay region, all the way down here toward Fort Myers and Naples, potentially up to 10-foot storm surge, even into the Big Bend area of Florida, up to 3-foot storm surge there as well. Florida Keys, 1 to 3-foot storm surge, so we're seeing storm surge that could be life-threatening in these areas. So make sure, if you're near the coast here, the west coast of Florida, you need to get out now and evacuate here. Follow your evacuation routes there in Florida. In addition to the storm surge, we're going to see some very heavy rainfall amounts that could be over a foot in some areas here of central Florida, and that will be causing some widespread flash flooding over the next few days. In fact, going into that Tuesday, Wednesday timeframe, Weather Prediction Center has a slight risk for flash flooding across central and south Florida, and then they up the ante to a moderate risk in the red here for flash flooding. That could also include southeastern Georgia as well, Wednesday into that Thursday timeframe. That's the 9th and 10th of October. This includes the Jacksonville area over here toward Tallahassee, Gainesville, Orlando, Tampa Bay, and even the Melbourne area as we go through Wednesday and Thursday. Wind gusts with this here as it makes landfall early Thursday morning. We're going to be seeing wind gusts that potentially could be on land of 140 miles per hour at its peak. And that could be impacting the Tampa Bay area. So right near the eye wall, that's where we could be seeing wind gusts up to 140 miles per hour with this system as it makes landfall, and then quickly starting to weaken as that land interaction is interacting with it there in central Florida. But we could still see some 40 to 60, even 70 mile per hour wind gusts in the Orlando area, for example, as we go into later Thursday morning as the system crosses through. The key messages from the National Hurricane Center to take away from this: a damaging hurricane force winds are expected across portions of the northern coast of the Yucatan Peninsula. A life-threatening storm surge with damaging waves is also likely across portions of the northern coast of the Yucatan. We already touched on that. There is an increasing risk for life-threatening storm surge and damaging winds for portions of the west coast of the Florida Peninsula. That'll begin Tuesday night or early Wednesday morning. Storm surge and hurricane watches are already in effect for those areas. For the west coast there of Florida and the peninsula, and residents in that area should follow any official advice and evacuate if told to do so. And also, key takeaway number 3, areas of heavy rainfall will impact portions of Florida today well ahead of Milton, so those outer bands will be moving in, and with heavy rainfall more directly related to the system later Tuesday and in through Wednesday night, this rainfall will bring a considerable flash flooding, urban and aerial flooding risk, along with the potential for moderate to major river flooding in the state of Florida and even southeastern Georgia. So that is something to watch as well as we go through this week. Hopefully you all took information in for this system. Make sure to evacuate away from coastal areas in Florida and stay safe out there. Subscribe to the channel if you are new here. We'll keep you updated with the latest information around Hurricane Milton all around the clock. Make sure to press the like button, give it a thumbs up if you did enjoy today's weather forecast. Leave any comments, questions, and concerns below. We'll answer any of them that we have today. And I hope everyone has a wonderful and safe rest of their Monday out there.